so we're going to pick back up with carbohydrates, this time carbohydrates that we cannot digest. So there are two types of carbohydrates that are not digestible by humans. That doesn't mean that there isn't somebody out there that can digest them, or that doesn't mean that nobody out there can digest them, because there are organisms that can break these down. But humans cannot digest chitin or cellulose. So let's take a look at what organisms use these and what they're using them for. So cellulose is used by plants like trees to be able to build their cell walls, and that gives them the ability to be rigid. So that's what allows trees to stand tall. But cellulose is also what makes things like celery crunchy, right? So when you crunch into celery, that's why it has that crunch. Chitin is a part of a complex that is used to make things like exoskeletons in crustaceans and insects. So if you've ever stepped on an insect and it went crunch, that's why, right? And if you've ever eaten seafood or seen someone eat seafood like lobster, shrimp, things like that, what part of the seafood, of those lobsters and shrimp and crab, what part do we not eat? We don't eat the shell. And the reason why is because we have learned over time that the shell isn't digestible. It's not nutritious for us at all. We can't avoid the non-digestible part of a plant because it's, a big part of it, but it turns out that the cellulose is actually important for us. So there's no point in us eating the shell on things like crustaceans, but it is important for us to consume that cellulose that's part of those plants. Because the other name for cellulose is fiber. And so you may have heard you should consume your fiber to keep you regular. Something like that in all of those commercials for Metamucil and so forth. And the thing is that fiber aids in human digestion. So we know fiber works as what we call roughage. So fiber, since it's not digestible, stays intact in our digestive system. And so when you consume any organism that contains cellulose, you chew on it and you break parts of that, right? But it stays pretty much intact as it goes through your digestive system. And you've probably experienced this before. Sometimes when you eat things, they come back out the other end looking pretty much the way they did going in. A great example of that's corn, right? And you might be thinking, yeah, but why is that helpful? Well, we need that roughage, that fiber, to help kind of push things along in our digestive system. So these guys kind of work a little bit like tiny bulldozers and help push that material through our digestive system, help get things moving out of little corners and so forth. There also has been links to colon cancer prevention and reduction with consuming fiber. So consuming that fiber can help reduce your risk of colon cancer. But on the other hand, too much fiber is a bad thing. Too much fiber can lead to diarrhea or even constipation, depending on how far you go with it. So then who can eat fiber? Who can eat cellulose? Well, termites are one of the organisms that can actually eat cellulose and get nutrition out of it, but not because they can digest it, but because they have organisms in their gut that can actually break down the cellulose and extract energy from it. So they chew down the wood and swallow it, and then their gut microbes actually break it down and feed them the energy, kind of like our gut microbes do for us with some foods. So, got one question to go to finish up with the carbohydrates, and that is, which of these foods below contains the largest amount of indigestible carbohydrates, or the stuff that'll keep you regular? So which of them contains the largest amount of fiber? Think about what organisms contain cellulose or indigestible carbohydrates. So a hamburger with a bun, French fries, a spinach salad, soda or pop for those of you from this region, or an apple pie. And if you picked a spinach salad, that one would contain the largest amount for the dish because it's made completely out of plants. Since plants contain cellulose, they are going to have pretty much almost all indigestible carbohydrates. That's why we have to chew them more in order to break open the cells so that we can get the gooey, good stuff on the inside. And that finishes up carbohydrates. So the next video is going to be on the lipids.